It was almost midnight when I came home and realized the house felt staged. Like a hotel room someone had tidied for a guest, not a place where real life happened. There was no TV blaring, no dishes in the sink, no socks hanging over the arm of the couch. Just silence, thick and waiting. The only light came from the hallway. A faint golden sliver spilling out like an invitation or a warning. I hesitated, key still dangling from my hand. Something about the quiet gnawed at my instincts, something primitive and sharp. I told myself not to be dramatic, but my feet moved without permission. When I turned the corner, I saw her. Lauren stood at the end of the hall, barefoot, wearing a silk robe the color of champagne. The knot was loose, hanging by a thread. Her hair was messy, not the effortless movie star kind, but as if she hadn't bothered to check the mirror. Her eyes met mine without blinking. There was no surprise, no affection, no guilt. Just a decision already made. My mouth was dry. I didn't speak. I just waited for her to move, to laugh, to say this was a stupid prank. Something. Anything. Instead, she let the robe slip off one shoulder. Enough that it barely clung to her body. My stomach turned. Not from desire, but from a cold, raw dread. My jaw dropped when my wife loosened her robe. She wasn't wearing much underneath. I looked at her and asked, "What's happening?" She modestly covered herself and said, "For 20 years, I stayed loyal to you, even though many tried to tempt me. Now I've decided to accept one offer. Tonight, whether you like it or not, I will spend time with him. He'll arrive shortly." The words didn't fit the air. They sounded mechanical, like she had rehearsed them in her head 1,000 times and was just waiting for the moment to press play. I stepped closer without meaning to, studying her face like it belonged to a stranger wearing my wife's skin. Was this real? Was she drunk? Was she testing me? "You're kidding," I said, though my voice cracked halfway through. Lauren tilted her head, a small, almost pitying smile creeping onto her lips. "You always were slow to catch on," she said. There was a knock at the door. Not a normal, hesitant knock, no. It was 3 sharp raps, confident, expecting. I stared at her, waiting for her to move, to fix this, to wake up. She just stared back. Her hand lazily retied the robe at her waist. But the message was clear. She wasn't hiding anymore. Not from me, not from herself, not from anyone. The knock came again. "Open it if you want," she said, "or I will." For a moment, I thought I might faint. My vision tunneled. The floor didn't feel real under my feet. My instincts screamed to run, to fight, to do something. But all I could do was watch as she turned, graceful, detached, and walked toward the front door. She didn't even look back. I didn't follow her. Couldn't. My legs refused to work, like they were no longer part of me. I heard the deadbolt slide back, the door creak open on its hinges. There were voices, low, muted, hers, and another man's, smooth and casual, like they were meeting for coffee. Not this. I stood there frozen, my fists curled so tightly my nails dug half-moons into my palms. The seconds stretched, bending, snapping against my ears. Then he stepped into the hallway. He was taller than me. Younger, too. Tan like he spent every weekend on some yacht or at some pool party I would never be invited to. His smirk wasn't cruel, it was worse. It was casual. Like he had already won and I wasn't even part of the game. Lauren trailed behind him, closing the door without a sound. Neither of them said anything. They just looked at me. Studied me. Like I was an old piece of furniture they were planning to move out of the way. "You can stay if you want," Lauren said, brushing past me like I was invisible. She tossed the words over her shoulder, light and poisonous. "Or you can go. It makes no difference anymore." The guy chuckled under his breath, already unbuttoning his sleeves like he lived here, like he had been here before. I took a step back, bumping into the hallway table. A lamp wobbled, threatening to fall. Lauren turned then, really looked at me for the first time. Her face twisted, not in guilt, not in regret, but in something worse, amusement. "You're making this way more dramatic than it needs to be," she said. "Honestly, it's pathetic. Pathetic." That word snapped something inside me. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't broken anything. I hadn't demanded answers. I just stood there, shell-shocked, like some sad clown at the end of a very bad joke. And she, the woman I had built my life around, couldn't even spare a real emotion for me. I moved before I thought about it. Shoved the front door open so hard it slammed against the wall. The night air hit me like a slap, cold and grounding. Leave, I said, my voice low, rough. Not begging. Commanding. Both of you. Now. Lauren laughed. Actually laughed. A high, sharp sound that made the hair on my arms stand up. You think you can just tell us what to do? She said, strolling toward me like a queen descending to scold a peasant. You don't control anything anymore, Michael. You never really did. You were just comfortable. She spat the word like it tasted dirty. The guy leaned against the wall, arms crossed, clearly entertained. You want a tip, man? He said. Don't cling so hard. It's embarrassing. Something inside me wanted to punch him, wanted to scream at both of them until my throat gave out. But something colder, smarter took over. I straightened, looked Lauren dead in the eye. You're right, I said. You made your choice. Now live with it. And with that, I stepped aside, leaving the door wide open. I didn't wait for her to respond. I didn't wait for the guy to sneer again. I just walked out. Not because I was weak. Not because I gave up. But because I realized in that moment there was nothing here worth saving. And if they thought they had seen the end of me, they were dead wrong. The night swallowed me as I walked down the street, but I barely felt the cold. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. Every step away from that house felt like pulling a knife out of my own chest. Halfway down the block, I heard her voice behind me. Michael. I didn't stop. She called again, louder this time, the sharpness in her tone betraying something new, panic. I kept walking. Then the sound of bare feet slapping the pavement. Fast. Desperate. She caught up to me at the edge of the cul-de-sac, grabbing my arm with both hands. Wait, she panted. You can't just leave like that. I turned to face her. Up close, she didn't look so composed anymore. Her robe was slipping off one shoulder, her hair wild, her face flushed, not with anger now, but fear. You invited another man into our home, I said slowly, enunciating each word like it was a blade. You made your choice. Why are you chasing me now? Her fingers tightened on my sleeve. You don't get to play the victim, she hissed. You're just trying to make me look like the villain because you're too much of a coward to fight for me. I laughed. I actually laughed. A deep, humorless sound that came from somewhere I didn't recognize inside myself. Fight for you? I said. You set the house on fire and you're mad I want run inside to burn with it? For the first time that night, her mask cracked. She blinked, her mouth opening and closing, searching for some rehearsed line to throw at me. But there was nothing left to say. Behind her, the guy stood at the doorstep, arms spread out like he was wondering what was taking so long. His presence was like a knife twisting deeper into my ribs, but I refused to look at him. It was her I needed to see. It was her I needed to finally understand. You didn't just cheat, I said, voice low. You disrespected everything. You humiliated me. You humiliated yourself. You trashed 20 years because you got bored. Her eyes flashed. Guilt, shame, rage, it all tangled together. But she was too proud to admit it. So what? She snapped. Maybe I deserve better. Maybe I was tired of waiting for you to be someone exciting. Someone who actually makes me feel alive. I stared at her. This woman, who used to fall asleep against my chest, who used to cry at cheesy rom-coms, who used to light up when I surprised her with takeout from that greasy diner she secretly loved. She wasn't there anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. And now I could finally see it. Go back to him, I said. You two deserve each other. I peeled her hands off me and walked away. This time she didn't follow. She just stood there, small and barefoot and furious, watching me disappear into the night she thought she controlled. But the story wasn't over yet. Not even close. Morning hit like a hammer. I hadn't slept. Just sat in my truck for hours, engine off, watching the sky turn from black to bruised purple to gray. At some point, the numbness wore off, and in its place, something colder and sharper grew. Not rage. Not despair. Clarity. By 7 a.m., I knew exactly what I had to do. I drove back to the house. Not to crawl back. Not to talk. I wasn't here to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break again. I was here to reclaim what was mine. My dignity, my future. I wasn't going to ask for it. I was going to take it. The neighborhood was still asleep, curtains drawn, sprinklers hissing across manicured lawns. Felt almost obscene, how normal everything looked. I unlocked the front door with my key, stepping inside like I owned the place. Because I did. Lauren wasn't downstairs. No voices, no laughter, no sounds of celebration. Just silence again, but this time it belonged to me. I went straight to the office. Grabbed the folder I had stashed away years ago, the one she thought I didn't know existed. Bank statements, property deeds, insurance policies. Every document that mattered, already prepared, already in my name. She thought she was clever, thought she had leverage. She had no idea how much I had quietly built without her even noticing. Footsteps above me. The bedroom door creaked open. Michael? Her voice was thick, groggy, confused. She was probably expecting breakfast in bed, some pathetic attempt at forgiveness. I didn't answer. I just kept moving. Calm, methodical, unstoppable. She came down the stairs wrapped in that same silk robe, clutching it tighter around her. Her hair was a mess, her mascara smudged under her eyes like she'd spent the night crying or fighting. I didn't care which. When she saw me with the folder, the color drained from her face. "What are you doing?" She demanded, trying to inject authority into her voice, but it cracked at the edges. I looked at her once, really looked. She wasn't some untouchable goddess. She was small, scared, and furious that the game was slipping out of her hands. "You made your choice," I said, keeping my voice calm, almost bored. "Now I'm making mine. You can't just, I cut her off. And I am." She moved closer, reaching for my arm. I stepped back, and the rejection hit her like a slap. "You can't just walk away from everything we built." She shrieked. I smiled, not kindly. "You burned it to the ground. I'm just sifting through the ashes." Behind her, the guy, her little adventure, stumbled downstairs, wearing one of my t-shirts. My hands clenched by reflex, but I didn't move. I didn't even blink. He wasn't a threat. He was nothing. He hovered awkwardly, sensing that the energy had shifted. Sensing that whatever fantasy Lauren sold him about her new life was already crumbling. "Maybe we can talk," Lauren said, her voice dropping, trying to sweeten, trying to reel me back in now that she saw the walls closing in. Maybe we rushed things last night. Maybe I wasn't thinking clearly." I laughed again. This time it wasn't bitter. It was clean, pure, cutting. "You were thinking clearly enough to throw it all away," I said. "Now live with it." I turned on my heel and walked out, folder in hand, heart steady, mind sharper than it had ever been. As the door closed behind me, I caught one last glimpse of her face, stunned, hollow, desperate. It should have hurt. It didn't. Not anymore. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning. And she had no idea what was coming next. I didn't go to a hotel. I didn't crash at a buddy's house. I went straight to a lawyer's office. It was the kind of place Lauren would have hated. No fancy lobby, no spa water in glass pitchers, no fake smiles. Just clean walls, heavy oak furniture, and a sharp-eyed woman named Denise Masters who shook my hand like she was already planning the takedown. I laid it all out without sugarcoating anything. 20 years of marriage. No prenup. No kids left in the house. Adultery. Public humiliation. She listened without interrupting, tapping a pen against her pad, occasionally raising an eyebrow but never flinching. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, smiled coldly, and said, "Good. You're going to bury her." It was the first real moment of satisfaction I'd felt in days. Within the hour, we had a plan. Bank accounts frozen. Assets traced and secured. Emergency motions ready to be filed the second the courthouse opened. Lauren thought she was clever. Lauren thought she held the cards. She didn't even realize I had built the table. By lunchtime, she knew something was wrong. The first call came as I was signing papers. I let it ring. The second call, ignored. The third, I answered. Her voice came through the line, tight and shrill. "Michael, the bank's saying the account's locked. I can't get any money. What's happening?" I stayed silent for a beat, letting her sweat. Then, figure it out. And I hung up. The lawyer chuckled across the table. "You're going to be a very expensive lesson for her," she said. I wasn't doing it out of spite, not really. I was doing it because for the first time in years I realized how deeply she had underestimated me. How small she thought I was. How disposable. And now? Now she was the one scrambling. Around 3 p.m., another text buzzed through. Can we talk? Please. Just talk. I stared at it for a long second before deleting it. No response. No opening. She wasn't used to this version of me. The one who didn't chase. The one who didn't beg. The one who had finally realized what he was worth. By the time evening hit, friends started calling. Mutual ones. Ones who just wanted to hear my side after Lauren apparently started spreading her version of events, painting herself as some trapped, unloved woman who had made a mistake. One friend, Tyler, said it straight. Man, she's freaking out. You walked out and didn't even look back. She's telling everyone you're being cruel. That you're trying to ruin her. I smiled, feeling a strange, calm satisfaction settle into my chest. I'm not ruining her, I said. I'm just letting her deal with what she created. At 9 p.m., sitting in a cheap diner with a cup of black coffee, I got the final call of the night. Unknown number. I picked up out of curiosity. It wasn't Lauren. It was him. Look, man, he said, trying to sound casual but failing, I don't want any beef. She told me you guys were basically done before we even met. If I'd known it was gonna be like this, I wouldn't have gotten involved. I almost laughed. You think I care about you? I said, the coldness in my voice even surprising myself. You're just a moment she'll regret for the rest of her life. I hung up without waiting for a reply. And for the first time since all of this started, I realized something. I wasn't broken. I wasn't lost. I was free. And tomorrow, Lauren was going to feel the full weight of what freedom looked like when it wasn't hers. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a photo. Lauren standing in the kitchen holding a cup of coffee, wearing one of my old shirts like some pathetic attempt at nostalgia. The caption under it said, "Can we just talk? Please. I miss you." The audacity of it nearly made me laugh. She missed me, or she missed the life I had built around her. There's a difference. A wide, canyon-sized difference. I left the message on read. No reply. No anger. Just clean, cold silence. By noon, she was pounding at my new door, a small apartment I had signed for overnight. She must have stalked the paperwork somehow, pulled every thread she could find. Typical Lauren, if she couldn't trap you with sweetness, she'd come hunting with fire. I watched her through the peephole for a solid 30 seconds. Hair a mess. Eyes wide, frantic. Makeup half-smeared. She wasn't even pretending anymore. When I finally opened the door, I didn't say a word. I just leaned against the frame, arms crossed, waiting. Michael, she started, voice wobbling between anger and desperation. We need to talk. You can't just disappear like this. Everything's falling apart. I let her words hang there, heavy and ugly, before finally answering. You're right, I said. Everything's falling apart. Good thing you're not my problem anymore. Her jaw dropped like I'd physically slapped her. I made a mistake, she blurted out, stepping forward. I didn't move. She stopped short, like finally realizing there were invisible walls between us she could no longer cross. I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I just wanted to feel something again. Her voice cracked on the last word, but it didn't stir anything inside me. No sympathy. No longing. Just exhaustion. You did feel something, I said. You felt powerful. You felt wanted. You felt like you could burn down a life without having to stand in the ashes afterward. Her face crumpled. Tears welled up, but I didn't trust them. I knew Lauren too well. Tears weren't always grief. Sometimes they were just another weapon. I'll end it, she whispered. I'll cut him off right now. I'll block him. Please, Michael. Just give me a chance to fix it. She reached for my hand and I stepped back. Not out of cruelty. Out of survival. You think this is about him? I said, voice steady. It's about you. You crossed a line you can't uncross. Don't throw everything away. She cried, her voice echoing down the hallway. A neighbor's door cracked open, someone peeking out to watch the spectacle. Lauren didn't care. She was beyond shame now. You threw it away the second you opened the door to him, I said coldly. The second you decided you were entitled to more. She collapsed against the doorframe, shoulders shaking, whispering my name like it was some kind of prayer. And for the first time, I realized the power wasn't hers anymore. It was mine. I'm not saving you, Lauren, I said. You don't deserve to be saved. I closed the door in her face. Not slamming it. Just closing it, final, quiet, absolute. On the other side, I could hear her sobbing. I didn't lean against the door. I didn't second-guess myself. I didn't break. I just walked back into my apartment. And for the first time in 20 years, I felt alive. I thought after that door closed, it would be the end of it. It wasn't. Lauren had always been like a storm, unpredictable, dangerous when cornered. And now, with her safety net gone, she was spinning out looking for anything, anyone to regain control. It started small. Texts I ignored. Voicemails I deleted without listening. Emails with subject lines like "I made a mistake and you're overreacting and we can fix this if you just meet me." Then she turned mean. Angry texts. Accusations. Claims that I had been the distant one. That I had emotionally abandoned her years ago. I knew the tactic. When seduction failed, when begging failed, when guilt failed, she would weaponize blame. Rewrite history if she had to. Anything to not be the villain in her own story. I ignored it all. But then she crossed a line. One night, I got a call from my boss. Apparently, Lauren had shown up at my office earlier that afternoon, fake crying in the lobby, claiming she needed to deliver urgent papers to me. Causing a scene. Asking questions. Saying things loud enough for anyone within earshot. Insinuations. Poison. Planting the idea that maybe I wasn't the man everyone thought I was. Maybe there was another side to the story. Classic Lauren, if she couldn't get me back, she'd try to ruin what I had left. I sat in my truck in the parking lot, gripping the steering wheel, staring out at the dark night stretched beyond the windshield. Not angry. Not sad. Focused. I wasn't going to play her games. I wasn't going to swing wildly and lose everything just because she wanted a reaction. The next morning, I filed a restraining order. Quietly. Efficiently. Legally. Lauren must have gotten the notice by noon. Because by 1 p.m. she was sitting outside my new apartment building, curled up in her car, sunglasses on, pretending not to watch the door. It would have been sad if it weren't so calculated. She wanted me to come to her. She wanted another performance. She wanted the control back. I walked past her without slowing down, without even glancing at her. The front door buzzed open behind me. I didn't look back. That night, as I sat on the couch eating cold pizza, my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't Lauren. It was Tyler, my old friend. "You're not gonna believe this," he said, voice half amused, half disgusted. "Lauren's been telling people you cheated on her. That you drove her into another man's arms." I actually laughed. A real bitter laugh that tasted more like steel than humor. Of course she was rewriting the story. Victims always needed a villain. And in her mind I had left her no choice. "Let her," I said. "I'm not fighting her lies. I'm living my truth." And the truth was simple. She had set fire to our life. I had walked through the ashes. And now I was building something new. Something she would never be part of again. It happened 3 days later. A Saturday. Bright, almost offensively cheerful. The kind of day that makes you wonder if the universe even notices human wreckage. I was at a local cafe, sitting outside with a coffee, sorting through some paperwork. Divorce filings. New lease agreements. Things that tasted bitter but felt necessary. Then I heard her voice. Loud. Too loud. Spilling out onto the patio like a tipped glass. "Michael. Michael, please." Heads turned. Conversation stalled. People looked up from their screens and brunch plates. I stayed still for half a second, pretending, hoping it wasn't her. But it was. Lauren stood at the edge of the patio, arms out like some desperate, drowning figure reaching for a life raft. No makeup. No robe. Just a crumpled hoodie, jeans that didn't fit right, and a haunted, feral look in her eyes. "Michael," she said again, voice cracking. "Talk to me. Please. Just 5 minutes. Please." Murmurs started rippling across the patio. Sympathetic glances. Curious stares. The beginnings of judgment aimed at me because I wasn't jumping up, running to the sad woman who clearly needed something. Lauren knew exactly what she was doing. Playing the role. Making a scene. Forcing me into a corner. If I walked away, I was heartless. If I stayed, I was trapped. I put down my coffee slowly, stood up, and locked eyes with her across the tables. "Lauren," I said, voice low but carrying enough weight to slice through the tension. "Leave." She flinched, audibly gasped, like I had struck her. "You can't just pretend 20 years meant nothing," she shouted, stepping closer, bumping into tables, knocking over a water glass. An elderly couple sitting nearby shook their heads. A mother pulled her child closer. The scene was collapsing fast, and Lauren was too far gone to care. "You can't erase me," she cried. "You can't just pretend like I never existed." I picked up my folder, tucked it under my arm, and looked at her. Really looked at her. One final time. "You erased yourself," I said quietly. I turned and walked away, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the awkward shuffles of people pretending not to be invested. I walked away from 20 years. From every memory she had weaponized. From every lie she still tried to shove between us. And I didn't feel regret. I didn't feel pity. I felt something sharper, cleaner. Freedom. Halfway down the street, my phone buzzed again. I thought about ignoring it. But something instinct maybe made me check. It wasn't Lauren. It was a message from Denise, my lawyer. "You're not going to believe this," the text said. "Lauren just tried to withdraw money from a joint account she didn't realize we already froze. Then she tried to accuse you of fraud. It's pathetic. We're 2 steps ahead of her." I smiled to myself, sliding the phone back into my pocket. Let her scream. Let her lie. Let her burn every bridge she had left. I wasn't looking back. I wasn't second-guessing. I was moving forward faster than she could even comprehend. And soon, she would be nothing more than a name buried in paperwork, a bad memory, a closed chapter. A ghost in a life she no longer had any part in. I should have expected she wouldn't go quietly. Lauren was the kind of person who never accepted the end unless she set the terms. And if she couldn't win the war, she was damn sure going to scorch the battlefield. 2 days after the cafe scene, a letter showed up taped to my apartment door. Not mailed. Not slipped under the door. Taped, bold, desperate, impossible to miss. The handwriting was hers. Angry, rushed. It wasn't an apology. It was a threat. Inside, she had written, in huge, jagged letters, that she was considering pressing charges against me for emotional abuse during the marriage. That she would go public with stories about how neglected she felt. That she would destroy me if I didn't meet with her and work this out like adults. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so ugly. There it was, clear as day. If she couldn't keep me, she would try to ruin me. I folded the letter neatly and took a photo of it. Sent it to Denise within minutes. She called me 5 minutes later, her voice tight with fury. "This is textbook coercion. Harassment. We file for a restraining order extension immediately. Do not, and I mean do not, contact her back." I promised I wouldn't. But the truth was, the letter rattled me more than I wanted to admit. Not because her lies scared me, but because she was willing to burn her own credibility, burn her own dignity, just for the slim hope that she could still pull me into her chaos. The next day, Denise moved fast. Court filings. Emergency motions. Within hours, the judge granted an extension on the restraining order and added an official warning. If Lauren continued to harass, threaten, or spread false accusations, she would face serious legal consequences. That should have been enough. It wasn't. The final blow came when I got a call from Tyler again. "Bro, you're not gonna believe what she's telling people now," he said, half angry, half stunned. Apparently, Lauren was now spinning a new story. That I had been controlling. That I monitored her phone. That I isolated her from her friends. A full-blown smear campaign. She was trying to rewrite history in real time, grabbing at whatever scraps she could find to paint herself as the tragic heroine of her own disaster. It almost worked. For a split second, hearing the words, I felt a twinge of fear. Fear that people might believe her. Fear that my name, my reputation, the quiet life I was trying to rebuild, could be stained by her bitterness. But then I remembered who I was, what I had already survived, and I knew the truth would outlast her lies. Because the people who mattered had seen it all. The ones who knew me had witnessed her games, her cruelty, her selfish spiral. And the rest, the strangers, they could believe whatever bedtime story she fed them. I wasn't living my life for their approval. I was living it for me. Later that night, as I sat on the balcony of my small new apartment, city lights blinking in the distance, I thought about everything Lauren had lost and would keep losing. Not because I was taking it from her, but because she couldn't stop herself from tearing it apart. I took a long breath, letting the cool air fill my lungs, and realized something. Lauren could lie. She could smear. She could scream until her throat bled. But she couldn't touch me anymore. She had no more power. And soon, the only person she would be able to destroy would be herself. It didn't end with a scream. It didn't end with a confession or an apology. It ended with silence. 2 weeks after the restraining order extension, Lauren vanished from my life completely. No more texts. No more calls. No more desperate scenes outside my apartment or ambushes at work. She had burned every last bridge, every last ounce of credibility until there was nothing left to stand on but ash. And when she finally realized I wasn't coming back, not with rage, not with pity, not with love, she folded. Word trickled in through mutual acquaintances. Lauren had tried to spin one final story, claiming she had left me because I was emotionally unavailable, but by then nobody was buying it. People weren't stupid. They saw the cracks she couldn't hide. The frantic lies. The public meltdowns. The ugly, desperate bids for attention. She had become exactly what she feared most, an object of pity. A cautionary tale. A woman everyone whispered about but nobody wanted to stand next to. And me? I moved forward. New apartment. New routines. New friends. Freedom tasted strange at first, bitter because of what it cost me. But also sweet because it reminded me that survival isn't about what you lose. It's about what you refuse to keep carrying. I didn't hate Lauren. Not anymore. Hate would have meant she still had space inside me. And she didn't. She had been evicted from my life, not with violence, not with rage, but with a quiet, unbreakable choice. One afternoon, I found myself driving past the old neighborhood. The house we used to call ours. The home we were supposed to grow old in. It looked smaller somehow. Sadder. The paint peeling, the lawn overgrown. Like it had given up trying to pretend to. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I just looked once in the rearview mirror and kept driving. A single glance at a ghost. A life that had ended long before either of us had the courage to admit it. If you're reading this, if you're in the middle of your own wreckage, wondering if walking away means losing, hear me, it doesn't. Sometimes the bravest thing you'll ever do is simply refuse to stay small for someone who doesn't know how to love you. Sometimes winning isn't about fighting harder. It's about finally putting down the sword and walking away from the battlefield entirely. I lost my marriage. I lost my home. I lost my best friend. And I found myself. It was a hell of a trade. And I would make it again every single time.